Everybody's favorite topic, money. One of the biggest goals for many creators is to work with the brands and companies that we know and we use and we see every single day. Over the last 12 months, I have been incredibly lucky to be able to work with some of the biggest brands and companies in the world, like Samsung and Adobe and recently Nespresso. But when it comes to actually landing these brand deals and finding connections in the space, most creators either completely misunderstand it or have no idea what to do. Whether that means they don't know how to get in contact with these people or how to get them in contact with them, or having the assumption that you have to have a lot of followers or a lot of engagement to work with them. So in today's video, I'm gonna share exactly what I did to land brand deals with these companies and the exact steps and things that you can do to do it as well. Even if you don't have a big audience, you gotta get out of that mindset. You don't need 1 million followers, I promise. All right, so step one is to identify the actual industries that you want to work in. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to niche down. You just more so need to know the types of brands and the types of companies that you actually want to work with. Why do you have to do that? Well, from a brand perspective, they want to make sure that the influencers and the creators that they're working with look like their customers. So for example, if you want to work with travel companies, say like Delta, like the airline, you probably need to make some sort of travel or lifestyle content, because if you don't, then why would a brand like Delta want to reach out to you to advertise their product of travel, essentially? Now, this doesn't mean that like brands and companies should dictate and like pull the strings and decide what type of content that you should make, but you need to be aware that industries matter when it comes to the brands that are actually going to work with you. And so what I like to do for this is to keep a list of 25 to 50 dream brands that I want to work with, that I obviously, keep up to date when things change. To basically ask yourself and double check like, hey, would these brands look at my account and be like, yeah, I want to work with this guy, this makes sense. One thing to remember here is asking yourself, why are you attractive to the brand? Is it because of your storytelling ability, the quality of your content, or maybe it's the engagement that you have with your audience? In my case, brands care way more about the quality of content that I can provide and my storytelling ability versus the actual engagement my post is going to get. Whereas someone that is more of a lifestyle creator that might have a really engaged community, they might care way more about the actual impact that the video is going to have on the audience. Don't think that you have to have like crazy good engagement for a brand to want to work with you. Number two, the most important probably, but most neglected part of brand deals is outreach. Now, I know that sounds like super salesy and boring, but I promise that this will probably have the biggest impact on your long-term success as a creator that works with brand deals and like with companies on collaborations. I used to have the belief that, as I'm sure many of you do, that when I hit a certain number of followers, that like brands would just start like knocking at my door and be like, take our money, take our money. Where a lot of times that's not the case. Frankly, just like any business, content creation is very much so about who you know or who you are connected with. This isn't always the case, but typically when it comes to campaigns and brand deals, what happens is a company, a brand, is about to launch a campaign and they already have a pre-existing list of creators that they will go down and be like, who do we want to work with? Oh, they would be a good fit. They wouldn't be a good fit. They would be a good fit. And then reach out to those creators. The problem that most creators have is they're not on these lists because A, their content has not been seen by these marketing people, or they just haven't done the work to reach out to these people, make that connection. So how do you do this? Basically, what I like to do, or what I used to do, what got me started, is I would find a company that I wanted to work with from my dream list, and I would go on LinkedIn and search the company and then put something like marketing director or influencer marketing, find and get in contact with these people. And when I found them, I would either send them a LinkedIn message, an Instagram DM, or an email. The important part here is that it has to feel personalized. Like, don't just type out some ChatGPT email that's like copy and paste. You should be curating each of these emails to each of these individual people, specifically to the brand. You can even do the extra work of being like, hey, I don't know if you have any active campaigns right now, but I had this idea for your guys' company. I think it'd be a really good fit. This is how I would execute it. This is what it might look like. And do that extra work for them, because you have to remember, when you're reaching out to them, you're asking something of them. And so they have zero reason to follow up with you, right? If you're just like, hey, I want to work with you, what does that look like? Where if you reach out to them and you're like, hey, I want to work with you, this is how I think it could look like, they're way more inclined to actually give you a reply and give you some attention. At the very least, they might go to your content that you're gonna reference in the email, so make sure you're obviously like linking videos and content and stuff, and see it and be like, damn, this guy is really good at making videos. He'd be a really good fit in the future. And then your name gets put on that list that I mentioned before. For example, for me, I had a company that I reached out to. They denied me in the sense of, hey, we don't have any campaigns that you can be on right now. Thanks for reaching out. We'll keep you in mind. And then 3 months later, they reach out to me. It actually ends up being my first like 5-figure brand deal. And then I've worked with them multiple times since. So a lot of this is like delayed gratification, but I promise that putting in this type of outreach and this work will pay off tenfold in the future just by getting your name out there and getting your name on these lists. The next step or the next piece of this puzzle, since these aren't really in a specific order, is to make spec ads. And if you don't know what a spec ad is, it's essentially a term used in commercial filmmaking for free work. What that kind of means is like, say you want to work in the automotive industry, but you don't have a portfolio that shows off any work in the automotive industry, you might rent a car for a day and make a really cool commercial for free to then use as marketing. For social media, this is like 10 times easier because a lot of the companies we want to work with are companies and brands that we already actively use, or we can at least like show off in some way. If you want to make work with more car brands for collabs, you probably have a car or can find a car. So you can make a really cool video about the car, or include the car in some creative way and use that when you are doing the outreach. Or you can tag a brand or send it to a brand and be like, hey, I made this really cool car video. I'd love to work with you on something in the future. For me, this actually happened with Notion. I made a cool video where I included Notion in the video of like apps I use, and ended up helping me land a deal with Notion down the road. So just including the things you actively use or brands or industries you want to work with, just make a video about them. Like, it's one video. It's not that big of a deal. Free work is going to unlock so many doors for you. I don't think that, if that brand reaches out and wants to use that video or want to hire you, make sure they pay you, obviously. But when it comes to like work on your own terms, do a spec ad of sorts of content, and it will really help you open a lot of doors in the future. And then the last step is connect, network. I know this is very similar to like outreaching, but really at the end of the day, it is truly just like about who you know in the space. And I know it's kind of lame because a lot of us really want this really passive business, which it can be eventually with like inbound and once you just have like referrals and whatnot. But really at the end of the day, it's like who you know. Not only will that present more opportunities for you, it will also just be more enjoyable and more fun down the road because you end up just working with your friends and people that you are close to. I've had so many opportunities to travel and work with some really awesome brands over the last like 6 months even. And like 80% of those opportunities were with people that I would consider friends or at least like close acquaintances, right? And so it's a really cool thing to be able to just actively just connect. Anytime, like a big creator follows you, or anytime someone from a brand DMs you, like hop on a call with them, or like just at least have a conversation with them, because you never know what sort of opportunity might come from it. It might seem silly that, having conversations with other creators can lead to brand deals, but there's been multiple times in my career where, a brand has worked with me and they've been like, hey, we're actually looking for a few more creators for this project, or like a brand deal might not be a good fit for me, but they ask me if there's anybody that I know that I think would be a good fit. Being a friendly person and making connections in the space will probably do more for you than anything else I've said before. So yeah, it's really, really, really just about connecting with people, being a good person, and being really intentional about what you create and who you're creating it for. If you guys have any questions about this that maybe I left unanswered that you're curious about, because I know I can only go so deep in this video, just leave a comment down below. I obviously would just love, to help you out as much as I can, because I know that like brand deals and sponsorships are like a weirdly not very like talked about topic. Like people are very gatekeepy and they don't really share exactly how they do it. I know that I am probably a little bit unique and like I'm very intentional about like outreach, which I know a lot of creators don't do. But if you're a smaller creator, or if you're a creator maybe who like is pivoting into like different types of content or different niches, or maybe you're like engagements in the shitter and you're like, oh my God, I can't get any brand deals or any collaborations, it's 100% possible. I promise. My engagement right now on Instagram is butt cheeks. It's so bad. It's so bad right now. I don't know what happened on Instagram. At the same time, I've done better in the last 6 months than I've done ever in my creative career. And that's not like a brag. That's simply saying that your follower count does not matter. Your engagement doesn't have to matter. There's just so much you can do in the space. And there's so many routes you can take it that I just think that it's sad that there's not like a very good resource for it. So again, if you have any questions, let me know below. But if you guys did enjoy this video and you want to see more videos like this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe down below. And I will see you in the next one. All right, peace.